Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Mark of the Ninja Remastered. I have played this game, the original version, not the remastered version, more than a decade ago at this point, and so I can't really tell you the differences between the original and the remastered. I imagine updated graphics, but I really can't compare the two, to be honest. Mark of the Ninja is a two-dimensional side-scrolling stealth game where you assume the role of a ninja who has been tattooed with like a special ink that gives him almost like supernatural powers and abilities. It's said that when you get injected with this special ink, when you get tattooed with it, that you start turning mad eventually, and so it's kind of like ritual that after you get tattooed and you succeed in the task that you are given, you kind of commit suicide so that you don't turn mad. And while you do have supernatural abilities, I feel like the game still is fairly grounded aside from a few exceptions. The general oversimplified concept is that like a bunch of army guys invaded your ninja clan, and so you're kind of like out to get the head army guy, military guy. And so you're basically like a ninja that's sneaking around these buildings and you're assassinating all these army dudes. You have a couple tools to your disposal. Most of the time you will be assassinating them using your sword. Essentially, to do like a real quiet assassination, you have to input the correct direction before, like, as you are assassinating them. And if you input the correct direction, then it is a silent assassination. If not, then it is a loud assassination, and it could potentially attract nearby army dudes. Anytime a sound is made, you kind of will like visually see this sound wave bubble emitting from the thing. And so like, yeah, you can run around, but you can actually see these giant sound wave bubbles coming from your feet as you're running around. So most of the time you're going to be moving kind of slow, sticking to the shadows so the guys can't see you, hiding behind objects. And when you pull off a bunch of stealthy assassinations and you clear out a room, you feel really cool. You feel like that ninja. And if you mess up, then it's really easy just to pause the game, click on that restart checkpoint button, and just try the room over again. They are fairly generous with the checkpoints, so if you feel like you messed up or if you want to like redo a situation, you really don't have to backtrack that much if you just restart to the checkpoint. And using this restart checkpoint system, you can make like an essentially like perfect run, assuming that you have the patience for it. And you will definitely get rewarded for these patient runs because as you play through each level, you will acquire a certain amount of resource based on how you have performed throughout the level and the type of resources that you collected, and you can use these resources in order to upgrade your character. Typically, you're going to earn these resources by your score. If you do like silent takedowns, if you're never noticed, if the alarm is never raised, you're going to accumulate these points, and eventually if you hit certain tiers, then you will acquire these medals. I think they call them honor, and you're gonna get 3 honors if you get a really high point score. You're also going to find 3 scrolls hidden throughout each level, and this kind of goes more into depth about like the ninja clan that you belong to and like the origin of the tattoos that you have. And then for each level there are 3 unique tasks that you can perform, like stealth assassinate 3 guards within 15 seconds, or get through this part and steal the keys without being noticed. And so usually for each level you can get 9 total rewards. I can't remember the actual name of these resources, but you can spend these on upgrading your character. These upgrades can look like different ways to assassinate enemies, like you can fall from the ceiling and assassinate them. You can assassinate them while hiding behind a certain object. You can also upgrade your items, and so as you play through the game, you will slowly unlock items. There are attack items and there are distract items. And to add a little more customization to your character, you also have these different outfits that you can slowly unlock as you play through the main game. Usually for these outfits, you're sacrificing one tool to greatly increase a different tool. Most of the game I did just play as the basic outfit, so I had access to everything, but nothing was like super overpowered either. If you want to really challenge yourself, like all good stealth games, there is an option, like a no-kill option, where you get like awarded extra points if you navigate through the the level without killing anybody. However, usually in stealth games, I find this to be the more boring option. So yeah, I'm killing any guard that I come across if it's convenient for me. Except for the dogs. And one thing that I really do appreciate about this game is instead of assassinating the dog if you get close to it, you just kind of like knock it out cold. And I get it, it's an imaginary dog, it's not real, but I always feel a little guilty when I assassinate those pixelated video game dogs, and so I like that this gives you the option to just knock it out. Like, granted, there are ways to kill the dog if you really wanted to, but I like that it isn't the only option. And the dogs are like one of the enemies that they slowly introduce as you play through the main game. Like when you're in the first level, it's just basic army dudes that have like a flashlight. But as you progress through the main game, the enemies eventually start getting like big shields. You'll get the dogs that can like sniff you out even if you're hiding. Eventually you'll get like enemies that have night vision. And so the enemies slowly get upgraded as you're getting upgraded. And so the gameplay, the stealth sections start to get more and more complex as you're having to like navigate around certain types of enemies as well, which adds a little more interest to the gameplay. I mean, if you want to get really savvy, you can even start using like the environment around the enemies and set up the traps that are kind of meant to kill you. You can set them up to kill the enemies. A lot of the times I would like set up a remote bomb somewhere, and then I'd throw like a dagger at an enemy and have them run towards me and just run into the bomb. So you can do like environmental kills as well. One thing that I really have to give this game praise for is its open-endedness, where there's about like 3 different branching paths at all times, and you have like so many different options in terms of like how you navigate each room full of guards. Control wise, it takes a while to get used to this game just because your character is so clingy to ceilings and walls. You could almost be like Spider-Man by the way he can just like automatically cling to walls and ceilings and drop down. And so you have to kind of get used to knowing that like if you move close to a wall, you're gonna automatically like suck into it, or like you have to press an extra button to kind of like vault off the wall if you want to get onto the ground. It takes a while to get used to, but eventually it does become second nature. There are some puzzles present in this game. I wouldn't call it a puzzle game, but there are elements where sometimes you have to like aim the light beams to activate certain things, or you have to like pull levers in a certain way, or you have to like manipulate certain blocks so that you don't get hit by booby traps. And as you play through the levels, you'll encounter like these giant gongs, which like almost teleport you to a separate puzzly area that you have to solve. But it isn't like a main component of the game. The main thing that you're doing is you're stealth killing these military army dudes. The animation is pretty puppety. I don't think it's aged the best, even with this remastered version. I mean, it's an old game, and I actually don't think it looks that bad in terms of like how old this game is, but you can definitely tell that it was made by a smaller team. You have these like cut scenes in between each level that look a little bit better, but it's not like, whoa, look at this art. Like, I don't think anybody's mind is going to be blown nowadays by watching these cut scenes, but it is still pretty cool. Like, it still holds up. It's a shorter game. It took me maybe about 5 hours to beat the game. And then in addition to this, I think the remastered version automatically comes with the DLC. And it's basically like you are playing as the character who gives the main character in the main campaign his tattoos. And so it's just like a level or two with this sub character. I actually recommend that you do this first because it's kind of a prequel. And if you do this DLC campaign first, then you will have extra items with you in the main campaign. So with both of these campaigns, you're looking at about maybe 6-7 hours, depending on how long it takes you to do things and how many times you're going to that restart checkpoint option. Overall, I actually still think that this game holds up pretty well. I think that they translated the stealth genre into a two-dimensional format very well. And when you're in the zone, you you can do really cool things and you can do really creative things as well. I think I'm gonna give this game a 4 out of 5. When I first played this game, I had really high opinions of it, and if you had talked to me before I played this remastered version now, I would have told you that it's a 5 out of 5 game, but I feel like maybe it hasn't aged perfectly, or maybe just the time and place that I was at when I first played this game more than a decade ago, I felt differently about video games than I do now. I mean, it's not like indie games were around, but they weren't like as prevalent as they are nowadays, and so maybe I was just like super impressed by the indie game that is Mark of the Ninja. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Mark of the Ninja Remastered, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!